Have you ever wondered how silence can speak? Not the silence of empty rooms or quiet streets, but the kind that carries memories, regrets, and dreams all at once? Clara had felt it that morning as she wandered down Willow Lane, her small shoes tapping lightly against the cobblestones, her breath visible in the crisp autumn air. Clara was 8, with wide brown eyes that seemed older than her years and a mop of chestnut hair tied in a crooked ponytail. She loved exploring, not for adventure itself, but for the quiet stories hidden in forgotten corners of the neighborhood. That morning, a strange fragrance, turpentine mixed with something sweet, like dried roses, led her to a narrow, half-hidden alley. Before we continue with this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Oh, and don't forget to comment below where you're watching us from. We love to know that. At the end of it was a small, weathered building, its windows streaked with dust and sunlight spilling unevenly across the cracked wooden floorboards inside. The door was slightly ajar, revealing a studio untouched by time. Easels leaned like soldiers against the walls, canvases stacked in haphazard piles, and brushes, some stiff with paint, lay scattered across a table. A figure sat in the center of the room. An old man, hunched over a blank canvas, hands trembling slightly as he moved the brush with careful precision. His hair was white as winter frost, and his eyes, hidden behind dark glasses, remained still, unseeing, yet strangely aware. Clara froze. "Hello," she whispered, her voice barely carrying over the soft tick of a clock hidden somewhere behind the shelves. The man paused, the brush suspended mid-air. "Who's there?" His voice was gentle, yet carried the weight of years. Clara stepped closer, curiosity overcoming caution. "I'm Clara. I smelled paint." The old man smiled faintly, revealing lines carved deep from decades of life. "Paint is one way to remember, and another to forget," he murmured. Then, as if sensing her gaze, he added, "But you can see. Do you understand the world I can no longer touch with my eyes?" Clara tilted her head, unsure how to answer. She had always loved colors, the golden amber of morning sunlight, the rich maroon of fallen leaves, the gray-blue of clouds before rain, but she had never thought of them as something someone might long to hear or feel. "Would you like to see it again?" Clara asked softly, feeling a strange flutter in her chest. The man's hands hovered above the canvas. "If you can describe it, perhaps I will." And in that moment, Clara realized that this quiet studio, hidden behind a narrow alley, was more than just a forgotten room. It was a bridge, a place where the unseen could meet the seen, where memory and imagination could dance together on canvas. As sunlight spilled across the room, catching dust motes like tiny stars, Clara felt a gentle shiver of anticipation. She had no idea how this meeting would change her life. Yet, somehow she knew it would. And the painter, with his blind eyes and patient hands, was waiting, ready to rediscover the world through the words of a little girl who could still see. The next morning, Clara returned to the studio, her heart beating faster than the previous day. The alley seemed narrower in the morning fog, the scent of wet leaves mixing with the lingering perfume of turpentine. She pushed the door open gently and stepped inside, her eyes adjusting to the dim light. Mr. Whitaker was already there, seated in his familiar chair, brush poised over a blank canvas. His dark glasses hid his eyes, but Clara sensed his anticipation. "Good morning," she whispered. "Good morning, Clara," he replied, his voice soft, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the fragile quiet of the studio. "Are you ready to show me the world?" Clara nodded, settling onto a stool beside him. She had prepared. On her walk to the studio, she had noticed the golden streaks of sunlight falling through the trees, the crisp red of leaves carpeting the streets, and the delicate gray of clouds drifting lazily above. "Tell me what you see," Mr. Whitaker said, lowering his brush carefully. Clara took a deep breath. "The sunlight is soft this morning," she began, "like honey spilled across the roofs. The leaves are bright red and gold, swirling on the wind, and the clouds, They look like cotton that's been stretched thin, almost ready to break into rain. Mr. Whitaker's fingers hovered over the canvas. Red, gold, cotton. His voice was a whisper, filled with wonder. "Show me." Clara leaned closer, her words flowing freely. She described the alley's quiet corners, the way the mist hung like a veil, the scent of damp earth and the faint perfume of late-blooming flowers. She spoke of the way shadows fell, how the air felt crisp against her cheeks, and even how the distant sound of a bell echoed through the morning. The old man's brush moved slowly at first, uncertain, then more confidently. Strokes of muted blues, soft golds, and pale reds appeared on the canvas. Clara watched, amazed as he transformed her words into shapes and colors she could almost touch. "You are my eyes," he said softly. "I cannot see the world, but you bring it to me." Clara's chest swelled with pride and something deeper, a warmth she couldn't quite name. I think your paintings are beautiful," she admitted. "Even if I only describe them, it feels like you can still see." Mr. Whitaker smiled, and for the first time he laughed, a quiet, trembling sound that filled the studio like sunlight. "Perhaps I can through you." They worked together for hours, the studio filled with soft brushstrokes and Clara's gentle voice. Each color she described, each movement she observed, breathed life into the canvas. Outside, the day passed unnoticed, and for a while time itself seemed to slow. By the time Clara left, her throat was hoarse and her fingers tingling with cold. But her heart was light. She had never realized that words could be so powerful, that describing the world could create art, hope, and connection. And Mr. Whitaker, the blind painter, looked at the finished canvas with a quiet awe, knowing that the world would never feel silent again. Days passed, each one leaving a delicate imprint of light and sound in the studio. Clara returned every morning carrying small notebooks filled with sketches and scribbles, her way of remembering details too fleeting to describe in words alone. She had discovered that memories, like paint, could be layered, blended, and transformed. And she wanted Mr. Whitaker to feel every hue. "Good morning, Clara," the old man greeted, his voice calmer, more patient than the first day. "Are you ready to take me outside, through your eyes?" Clara nodded eagerly. Today, they would walk along the lane behind the studio, where the trees formed a tunnel of amber and gold. She had been waiting for this moment, knowing that the world beyond the studio walls held colors and textures the painter had not touched for years. As they stepped outside, the crisp air wrapped around them. Clara described everything with reverence, the amber sunlight breaking through the canopy, the way it danced across fallen leaves like liquid gold, the faint green of moss clinging to the cobblestones. She spoke of the cool wind brushing her cheeks, the distant hum of a train passing beyond the hill, and the faint aroma of earth and late-blooming flowers. Mr. Whitaker listened intently, his brush poised over a fresh canvas. Each word Clara spoke became a stroke, each detail a layer of life added to the painting. She noticed him pause sometimes, as if reaching into memory, drawing not only from her descriptions, but from the colors he had once seen. "You remember them, don't you?" Clara asked softly, noticing the way his hands trembled. "Yes," he said, his voice thick. "Memories are the truest colors, sometimes brighter than the present. Sometimes even the present cannot hold up against them." Clara felt a pang of understanding. Her own memories were young, but already they carried weight, moments she wished she could hold forever. They returned to the studio, and the painting had begun to take shape. Golds and ambers mixed with delicate blues and soft grays, capturing the warmth of sunlight and the cool hush of shadows. Clara realized that her words, guided by the old man's hand, were not only bringing the world to him, but also awakening the memories he thought were lost. "Clara," he whispered as he leaned back, exhausted but satisfied, "through your eyes I can paint again. I can remember the skies I once loved." The little girl smiled, feeling a strange pride. She had not only given him the colors of the world, but also a connection, proof that life, even when altered or diminished, could be shared, remembered, and recreated. And as the evening light spilled across the studio, she knew that together they were painting more than a scene. They were painting life itself, fragile yet enduring, one brushstroke at a time. A week later, the studio was alive with the soft hum of routine. Clara arrived carrying her notebook, cheeks flushed from the morning chill, and Mr. Whitaker greeted her with a nod, adjusting the blindfolded glasses he wore even indoors. Today, however, there was tension in the air. As Mr. Whitaker reached for his canvas, the old easel groaned, splintered, and collapsed with a sudden crash. Paint tubes tumbled to the floor, brushes rolled into corners, and the canvas, half-painted, delicate and precious, bent slightly under the weight. "Oh no!" Clara cried, rushing forward. Her small hands trembled as she tried to lift the canvas. "Is it ruined?" Mr. Whitaker paused, then let out a soft chuckle. "No, my dear. Not ruined. Just delayed." His voice, though calm, carried a hint of weariness. "Sometimes life decides we need to stop for a moment, to rethink, to breathe." Clara bit her lip, unsure how to respond. She had never seen someone so composed after a near disaster. "Let's fix it," she said finally, determination in her voice. "We can fix it together." They carefully lifted the canvas and set it aside. Clara gathered the fallen brushes, handing each to Mr. Whitaker, who sorted them with deliberate precision. The old easel, however, had splintered beyond repair. "I suppose I'll need a new one," he murmured. His fingers traced the broken wood, and Clara noticed a faint tremble in his hands. Or perhaps it's a lesson that nothing lasts forever, even the tools we rely on. Clara hesitated. She had never thought about impermanence in such a direct way. "Does that mean we just keep going anyway?" "Yes," he said, looking at her with a quiet intensity. "We adapt, we create, even when the world shifts beneath us." They spent the next hour improvising. Mr. Whitaker placed the canvas atop a sturdy table, and Clara adjusted her descriptions so he could continue painting without a proper easel. As her words flowed, about the shimmer of morning light, the crisp air, and the golden leaves swirling outside, the brush followed her voice faithfully, tracing the beauty she painted with words alone. By the afternoon, the canvas had regained its shape, the scene vivid and alive. Clara marveled at how something broken could still become beautiful, transformed by patience, care, and collaboration. "Clara," Mr. Whitaker said softly as he set down his brush, "you are not just my eyes. You are my strength, my guidance. Without your words, this would be empty. With them, it is alive." Clara felt a warmth in her chest, understanding that this broken easel was not a setback, but a bridge. It was a reminder that life, like art, often required adaptation and resilience. And sometimes the most beautiful creations emerged not in spite of challenges, but because of them. As the sunlight faded through the studio windows, Clara whispered, almost to herself, "I think the world is teaching me how to see too." Mr. Whitaker smiled gently, nodding. "And through seeing you will learn to remember. That is the true gift of art." That evening, a storm rolled over the town, dark clouds gathering like a heavy quilt across the sky. Rain pounded against the studio windows, drumming on the roof with relentless force, and wind whipped around the corners of the old building, rattling the panes. Clara had never seen such a storm up close, and as she hurried to the studio with her raincoat soaked through, a shiver ran down her spine. Inside, Mr. Whitaker was already at his canvas, seated in the dim light of a single lamp. The room smelled of wet earth and paint, a strange, comforting mix. He had removed his glasses, rubbing his eyes where fatigue had settled deep. "You're late," he said, though the corners of his mouth hinted at a smile. "The storm," Clara began, her voice catching in the roar of rain. It's so strong tonight." "Yes," he murmured. "The sky speaks loudly sometimes, It reminds us how small we are, yet how alive. Clara stepped closer, brushing raindrops from her hair. She looked at the canvas, half-finished, a swirl of blues, grays, and silvers, a mirror of the tempest outside. I don't know how to describe it, she admitted, shivering slightly. The rain is everywhere, and the wind. It feels like it's trying to push everything away. Mr. Whitaker reached out and took her hand gently. Then let it push. Let it move you. Describe what it feels like, not just what it looks like. Clara closed her eyes. She listened to the hiss of rain, the creak of the wooden floor, the faint whistle of the wind through the cracks. It's like the sky is angry, but also sad. The rain is crying, but it's soft too, like it wants to wash everything clean. And the wind, it's trying to speak, to tell us something we can't hear. The old man's brush moved across the canvas with unusual vigor, following her words like a river responding to rain. Colors shifted. Dark blues and silvers blended with unexpected hints of gold and white, capturing not just the storm outside, but the emotions it carried. Clara stayed close, her voice describing every nuance. The way water slid down the windows, the smell of wet leaves, the distant rumble of thunder, the flicker of lightning illuminating the room in brief, brilliant flashes. She realized then that she wasn't just describing. She was translating the world into feelings, into art. Hours passed. The storm eventually waned, leaving the studio quiet except for the soft patter of leftover rain. Clara looked at the canvas and gasped. The painting was alive, wild and tender all at once, a mirror of the storm, a reflection of fear and hope intertwined. Mr. Whitaker rested his hands on the table, exhausted but radiant. "Tonight you taught me more than I could ever remember," he whispered. "The world does not always need sight to be understood. Sometimes it only needs a heart willing to feel it." Clara smiled softly, her own heart pounding. She had seen her words become something larger than herself, and for the first time, she understood the power of being someone's eyes, guiding, sharing, and illuminating life through connection and love. The morning after the storm, the studio was quiet in a way that felt full of echoes, memories, and a lingering sense of awe. Clara arrived with a notebook clutched tightly in her hands. Today, Mr. Whitaker didn't reach for the brushes immediately. Instead, he settled back in his chair, hands folded over his lap, as if inviting something unspoken. "Clara," he began softly, "we've been painting the present and the storm, but there are other colors hidden deep in memory. Would you like to hear them?" Clara nodded eagerly, curiosity shining in her eyes. He paused, inhaling deeply, and began to speak. "When I was a boy, I could see the skies in ways you wouldn't believe. Each evening, the clouds would perform a different symphony. I'd stand in the fields outside my home, watching the sunsets bleed from amber to crimson, the stars whispering secrets as night fell. My father taught me to notice the smallest details, a ripple in a pond, the shimmer of dew, the faintest glow of moonlight on a fence post." Clara listened, mesmerized. She could almost see it, the way he described it. The world alive in ways she hadn't imagined. "I painted many of these moments," he continued, voice thick with nostalgia. "But one day, sight left me, and with it, my colors faded. I thought my memories would be enough, but they weren't. I forgot the edges of clouds, the way the sun flickered on rooftops. Until you came, little one. You are my eyes, yes, but also my memory, my voice to the world I feared I'd lost." Clara's hands trembled slightly. She had never realized the weight her words carried, that by simply describing what she saw, she was bridging the past and present for someone else. "I want to tell you something, Clara," he said, leaning closer. "Life is not just about what we see, but what we remember, what we share, and how we connect. Each painting we create together is not only color on canvas, it is a conversation with time, with those we've lost, with the beauty that refuses to fade." Clara smiled softly, understanding more than her years might suggest. Then we can keep painting forever, she whispered. Even if we forget, or if the world changes, we can still remember together. Yes, Mr. Whitaker said, reaching for her small hand. And someday, someone else will look at these paintings and hear our stories. That is the true gift of art, not only to capture what is before our eyes, but to preserve what is in our hearts. They spent the morning sharing stories. Clara spoke of her family, her little triumphs and fears, the small wonders she noticed each day. Mr. Whitaker recalled the streets of his childhood, the faces of friends and family long gone, the songs of birds and the whispers of wind through old trees. As the sunlight spilled through the studio windows, mingling with the scent of paint and old wood, Clara realized something profound. By sharing these stories, they were keeping life alive, not just in memory, but in the very act of creation. And in that quiet studio, two hearts, one young, one old, beat together in perfect rhythm, painting not only images, but a legacy of love, memory, and hope. Weeks passed, and the studio became a sanctuary of colors and stories. Each day, Clara and Mr. Whitaker painted together, weaving memory, emotion, and observation into canvases that seemed to glow with life. Word of the blind painter's renewed work began to spread quietly through the neighborhood, carried by neighbors and a few art enthusiasts who remembered his earlier fame. One sunny morning, as Clara arranged brushes on the table, there was a soft knock at the door. Clara opened it to find a tall woman with a kind smile holding an envelope. "Good morning," the woman said warmly. "Are you Mr. Whitaker?" "Yes," he replied, voice calm but tinged with curiosity. "I'm from the Whitmore Gallery. We heard that your work has returned, even in such extraordinary circumstances. We'd be honored to feature your paintings in an upcoming exhibition." She paused, glancing at Clara. "And I hear you've been his eyes?" Clara's cheeks flushed. I help him describe things, colors and light and the world outside." Mr. Whitaker's hands trembled slightly, a mixture of surprise and emotion crossing his face. "An exhibition?" he whispered. "After all these years?" "Yes," the woman said, her eyes shining. "Your work deserves to be seen again. The world should witness the skies you've captured, even now through memories and imagination." Clara and Mr. Whitaker exchanged a glance, the unspoken bond between them stronger than ever. It wasn't just the exhibition. It was a validation of every hour, every story, every brushstroke they had shared. That evening, after the woman had left, Mr. Whitaker turned to Clara, his voice soft. "You've not only helped me see again, you've reminded me why I ever painted. Without your eyes, these colors would have remained hidden in my mind. Together, we've brought them back to life." Clara smiled, her heart swelling. "Then we have to get ready, right? To show the world." "Yes," he replied, nodding slowly. "But remember, Clara, it's not about the applause or the recognition. It's about the journey, the memories, the stories, the lives touched by these skies. That is the true exhibition." Over the next few weeks, preparations began. Canvases were carefully packed, letters describing the paintings were written, and Mr. Whitaker and Clara practiced narrating the stories behind each piece for the gallery visitors. Clara realized that her words, once just a guide for the painter, had become a bridge connecting the audience to the heart of the art. On the night before the exhibition, she stood in the studio looking at the collection of canvases glowing in the soft lamplight. Each painting told a story: a stormy evening, a golden sunset, a quiet alley. But more than that, they told the story of trust, of connection, and of the unexpected ways life could be seen and remembered. Mr. Whitaker rested his hand lightly on her shoulder. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "the world will see not just the skies, but the journey we shared. And perhaps through it, they'll remember their own." Clara nodded, feeling a warm, profound sense of purpose. For the first time, she understood the true power of art, not only to capture what is visible, but to reveal what is invisible: love, memory, and the quiet beauty of life itself. The day of the exhibition arrived, and the gallery buzzed with soft chatter, and the faint scent of polished wood and fresh paint. Clara walked beside Mr. Whitaker, her small hand tucked into his, guiding him through the unfamiliar space filled with lights, canvases, and people. She could hear the quiet gasp of admiration as visitors paused before the paintings, studying the swirls of color and the depth of emotion captured on each canvas. As Mr. Whitaker greeted guests, Clara wandered quietly to a small corner of the gallery. She carried her notebook, the one she had filled over weeks of exploration and description. Among the pages was a secret sketch she had been working on, a little painting of the studio itself, with golden light spilling through the windows and two figures standing amidst brushes and easels. It was a gift for Mr. Whitaker, a symbol of their journey together. Clara hesitated. She didn't want to interrupt the exhibition or distract him, but she couldn't resist the urge to share her creation. Carefully, she approached the old painter, holding the notebook like a precious treasure. "Mr. Whitaker," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. I made something for you." He turned, eyes hidden but attentive. "For me?" His voice was soft, curious. Clara opened the notebook and revealed the sketch. Mr. Whitaker reached out, gently touching the page. The lines were simple but full of life. The essence of their studio, the light, the brushes, and most importantly, the bond they had formed. I see it," he said, voice thick with emotion. "You've captured more than the studio. You've captured us, every color, every moment, every memory." Clara smiled, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "It's because you taught me how to see, not just with my eyes, but with my heart. I wanted you to remember that too." Mr. Whitaker held the sketch close to his chest, as if absorbing its warmth. "Clara, this is the greatest masterpiece of all. Not the paintings on the walls, but this, the story of our time together, captured in your hands." The crowd continued to admire the exhibition, but for a moment, the gallery felt suspended in a bubble of quiet intimacy. Clara realized that her secret sketch was more than a gift. It was a testament to the invisible threads connecting generations, the beauty of shared memory and the power of seeing through another's eyes. As the evening wore on, visitors praised the paintings, marveling at the vibrant skies and emotional depth. But Mr. Whitaker and Clara shared a private smile, knowing that the true magic of their work was not the applause, but the journey they had undertaken together, one brushstroke, one description, and one memory at a time. Clara placed her notebook back in her bag, feeling a gentle pride. She had discovered something extraordinary, even a small pair of hands, an observant heart, and a willingness to share could illuminate the world for someone who could no longer see it. And in that realization, she understood the essence of their story. Art was not only about what could be painted, but about what could be felt, remembered, and shared eternally. The weeks following the exhibition were a quiet whirlwind of letters, interviews, and gentle praise. Mr. Whitaker's paintings had captured hearts, and Clara's words had guided them to life. Yet there was one canvas left, the final piece he had begun months ago but never finished, a depiction of the evening sky above the studio, filled with the memory of every storm, every golden sunrise, every laugh they had shared. "This one is different," Mr. Whitaker said one morning, his fingers hovering over the canvas. "It needs everything. Memory, imagination, and you, Clara." Clara nodded. She had anticipated this moment, the painting that would encapsulate not only the skies they had recreated, but the journey of connection, trust, and understanding. She stepped beside him, inhaling the familiar scent of turpentine and old wood, and began describing the world around them. "The sky is soft and warm, like a hug you didn't know you needed. There are hints of gold at the edges, fading into gentle blues. Clouds drift lazily, carrying whispers of storms past. Light glimmers off the windows of the studio, and there's a quiet sense of peace, of completion." Mr. Whitaker's brush moved slowly at first, tentative, then with a fluid confidence. capturing not only the scene, but the emotions Clara poured into her words. Her descriptions guided him, layer by layer, color by color, memory by memory. "You're not just describing, Clara," he said softly. "You are translating life itself." They worked in silence, punctuated only by the gentle strokes of brush on canvas and Clara's quiet narration. Hours passed, but neither noticed. Time had become secondary to the creation, to the unfolding of something greater than either of them. A masterpiece born of sight, memory, and the invisible bond between heart and hand. Finally, as twilight settled outside the studio, Mr. Whitaker stepped back, exhausted but radiant. The canvas shimmered with a golden blue harmony, a sky alive with storms survived, sunlight remembered, and love shared. It was, in every sense, complete. Clara took a step closer, her eyes wide. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Not just the sky, but everything. It's us." "Yes," he said, voice thick with emotion. "It's every day we've shared, every story, every color you've brought to life for me. It's a testament to the truth that even when we lose something, sight, youth, time, the heart can still see, and create, and love." They stood together side by side, gazing at the masterpiece. Clara felt a warmth unlike anything she had ever known. The quiet, profound joy of seeing life made tangible, of having shared it so completely with another soul. That night, as she walked home under the soft glow of street lamps, Clara understood something essential. Some masterpieces are not only on canvas, they live in hearts, in memories, and in the enduring connections we forge with others. And in that understanding, she felt the world expand, limitless, luminous, and beautifully alive. The morning after the final painting was completed, the studio felt different, lighter, filled with a quiet hum of satisfaction and unspoken gratitude. Sunlight poured through the windows, dust motes drifting like tiny stars in the golden beams. Clara entered, carrying her notebook, and paused to breathe in the familiar sense of turpentine, wood, and dried paint. "Good morning, Clara," Mr. Whitaker said, his voice steady but warm. "Today feels complete." Clara smiled, her heart full. "It does. The paintings, the stories, everything we've shared. It's like the world is brighter here." He nodded. "And yet it's not just here. Every word you've spoken, every color we've brought to life will echo beyond these walls. In the gallery, in the hearts of those who see our work, and in you." Clara looked around the studio, at the canvases lining the walls, skies painted in every imaginable hue, storms captured in silvers and blues, sunlight frozen in golds and ambers. Each painting carried a memory, a feeling, a fragment of life they had shared together. She realized, suddenly, that art was not simply for the eye. It was for the heart, the soul, and for generations to come. "Will people understand it?" she asked softly. "They will," he said gently. "Not every detail, not every brushstroke, but they will feel it. That is what matters. The echo of life, love, and memory resonates where words cannot reach." Clara felt a warm shiver run through her. She thought of the first day she had entered the studio, unsure of what she would find, and now, after months of shared creation, she understood the quiet power of connection. They had painted more than skies. They had painted life itself, fleeting, beautiful, and full of hope. As she stepped closer to the largest canvas, the final masterpiece, she whispered, "Thank you for letting me be your eyes." Mr. Whitaker placed a hand on hers, a tender, steady gesture. "No, Clara. Thank you for teaching me that sight is not the only way to see. Through you, I've remembered the world and myself. We've given each other more than art. We've given each other the gift of life, fully felt." Outside, the wind stirred the leaves, carrying echoes of the storm, of sunshine, and of laughter. It seemed as if the skies themselves were whispering back to them, honoring the journey of two unlikely friends who had bridged the gap between youth and age, sight and memory, past and present. Clara stood beside him in silence, listening. The echo of their work, the stories, the colors, the heart, lingered in the air, a testament to the enduring beauty of human connection. And for the first time, she understood that the skies they had painted were not limited to canvas. They lived everywhere, in hearts, in memories, and in the quiet, radiant moments that made life extraordinary. As the sunlight shifted and cast a final golden glow across the studio, Clara whispered to the sky, "We'll remember, always." Mr. Whitaker smiled, closing his eyes. And in that moment both knew, some echoes never fade, and the true masterpiece of life is the love and memory we leave behind.